Today, we're excited to welcome Bola and Bola, the author and founder of Soul Space Healing. Through her work in energy healing, Bola offers powerful insights on spirituality and emotional mastery. She helps others unlock their fullest potential. Bola and Bola up next. Bola, again, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this has been a long-awaited dream of mine to be on your talk show.
Oh,
So yes, I absolutely am pleased to be here. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you. So, my first question: how does developing emotional intelligence allow us to navigate the complexities of human consciousness and interconnectedness?
It does because emotions really are powerful. They come from the thoughts. When we have our thoughts, and then those thoughts become, there's always a thought behind an emotion. If you're feeling anything, there's something that has led to that feeling. So it's important to understand that emotions have thoughts and perceptions behind them, the sadness, the joy. And emotional intelligence is really about understanding our own self, understanding the emotions of the reflections of people around us, and being able to hold space for that. It's different from intelligence quotient, which is the IQ. IQ is really about adaptation. It's about how easy is it for you to adapt to the changes around you. It's nothing to do with emotions. And for those who have high emotional IQ, which is the ability to master their own emotions and the emotions of those around them, in order to achieve the best outcomes for themselves and the collective, those who have higher EQs outperform those who don't by 40% in the workplace. This was the research that was done recently. So it's a much valued capacity, trait, expertise than IQ, which also has its value.
Well, I was just
Yeah.
going to say then, Bola, let's just expand on that a little bit. How can that emotional intelligence facilitate a deeper connection with our intuition? And if so, how?
Emotions are really connected to our heart. Intuition comes from the heart. We can only connect to the heart when the space in the head is coming, when we're able to observe that space in the head. We do need to create much more distance with our thoughts. Those 60,000 thoughts, 90,000 thoughts going through our heads every day, we can only connect with our hearts and with the higher perspective of emotions when we have let go of the grip of those thoughts. The grip of those thoughts are key. That is walking around, starting out before we started any kind of transformation. We are in the grip of our thoughts. Our thoughts will drive us, whether they're negative or positive, but usually we are conditioned in a negative way so that we can be slaves to the system. That is the purpose. We are not meant to be able to have freedom of thought or freedom of will, where we are conditioned to have particular beliefs that allow us to be victims, to feel we're victims. So we have to release that grip. And as we release the grip, we leave space for us to understand those emotions. We can pause. We can begin to touch base with our hearts. And the heart is really where our intuition lies, which is where the higher self dwells in. The higher self has that space in that physical body
Mhm.
that it is in. And when we are able to connect with those emotions in the heart, we are beginning to connect to that intuition. And it's a journey, but it starts with understanding your emotions, understanding how people react to things. And it's not about taking it personally. Emotional intelligence is about learning not to take things so personally. It's
Yeah.
about learning to understand those around you. And when we begin to do that, we begin to get better outcomes in our day to day. Say somebody does something to you or somebody turns up late, for instance, and they do not apologize or they do not even believe they've wasted your time, or they do not believe they've done anything that is, that is off. They don't really perceive your response. And what do you do with that? Do you want to make them apologize, or do you let it go? Those are decisions that we come to make when we're working with emotional intelligence. We sometimes decide not to fight that battle because we want to win the war. It's about choosing. It's about choosing which fight to take on, or choosing not to even fight at all. But it takes a lot of inner resilience for us to, the self-talk has to be loving, because there are different personality constructs that are working with that particular experience. And we've got to have enough capacity and integration to own all those different personality constructs. And that gives us more space within, because we have to allow the density to become less. And that's when we begin to vibrate at a higher frequency. It does create a different connection with our higher self. It creates a different density in the heart space. And we can begin to connect with our higher self a lot more. And we're talking about different timelines. The timelines we will find ourselves in will be much more loving timelines, as opposed to timelines that are based on victimhood. It's all about empowerment. And there are times when we will want to be more rational. That's okay. There are times when we don't want to talk about the heart space. We don't want to necessarily talk about compassion, because I'm also a legal advisor. And when I'm in court, I'm not particularly thinking about heart space. I'm thinking about making sure that I'm putting a good critique forward. I'm being very analytical about whatever is being presented to me. But that is okay for that particular experience, using using the right personality construct in a most compassionate way, not in a way that dominates the other person, in a way that presents whatever you need to present in a non-judgmental, neutral way. You become a much more neutral person, working basically on the facts and expressing what needs to be expressed for the best outcomes that you and whoever is in your team are looking to get. So this is the difference in working from the heart space. You
Yeah.
can still be as dynamic as an entrepreneur. You can still do whatever you need to do in this physical space with the right personality construct, because we will learn how to develop those constructs in a way that works for us. And some of those constructs will be much more intuitive than others, and it's all about knowing when to step into your intuitive space and
Uh,
when to step into your rational mind space. A lot of the times, there's no judgment. You're just doing what you need to do and trusting how things are unfolding, knowing that all is as it needs to be. And that
exactly.
is a powerful place. That's when the higher self is driving, when
Right.
the ego self is able to actually say everything is as it needs to be. And there's no conflict, there's no stress, there's no feeling of chaos. There's a trust and a surrender. And that's coming from the heart. So that is an ego self that is driven from the heart.
So let's just speak about holistic healing for a second. How does the integration of body and mind and spirit in self care lead to a deeper holistic healing experience?
There is a life force in us that is holistic, in and of itself.
So everyone has this ability in terms of,
Everyone is as consciousness. Everyone is consciousness. And understanding consciousness, that your consciousness, whether you're thinking about your mind, your body, or your spirit, you are those different parts of us. They're all parts of us. But at the very fundamental, at the very basic level, we are consciousness. And that is where we can come to bring all those parts together using different modalities. But the more we can bring those parts of us together and identify ourselves as consciousness. Consciousness is that energy form that we truly are. That has been embedded in the different physical forms, in the mind, in the body. And the mind is not is an energetic form.
Mhm.
It's not the brain, it's different from the brain. The mind is an energetic form that is like a layer that forms an energetic layer around that body. So there is that shift in perspective from attaching to the different parts of self to then attaching to consciousness, to ourselves as consciousness. And that is, there are different ways that people explain things, but no matter how we come to understand the whole self, it's important to amalgamate those parts of us. The mind, the body, that's the physical ego self. That's the mind and the body. That's the physical ego self that has, there's the higher mind, but there's also the physical mind.
Yeah.
And that physical mind needs to amalgamate with the body. And you will stop thinking of yourself as mind and body and just begin to work with your constructs. Allow the construct that needs to turn up and allow yourself to be driven from a place of love, from your heart space.
So when you say that
Yeah.
is you allow yourself to be driven, there's also a sense of trust. So what practices would you suggest people could use to initiate that trust and to build that confidence with that trust?
There are so many things that we can do. That's a very great question. Because that trust is something that some of us find it very elusive. And I know that the only way I got to build trust was reading books. I actually remember reading the book by Ramana Maharshi when I was 18. And this book is the one titled Who Am I? And I got to understand this physical ego self and the higher self. The book describes those two selves. And within a couple of years, I found my soul mate. I've had a couple of those. So I found, well, he's the father. We're divorced now, but he's the father of my two kids. So that's, it's a very powerful soul contact. And there was an understanding that I began to have about my own self. We have to be willing. We have to be curious. We have to be curious about our own relationship with our own self. And that curiosity that leads us to different modalities, to reading. Reading is a modality. To coaching. Coaching is a modality. Energy healing is a modality. We will be drawn based on our curiosity to the modalities that will help us. So it's not one modality for the 8 billion of us. Each of us will develop that trust in different ways. The fundamental thing is to be curious and to be willing to understand self, to take it almost like a scientific process where you are understanding what you did led to this and what, because at every single moment there are different options. There's an option, there are different options right in front of us at any point in time. And we'll take one option, and that option will lead to another set of options. We will never run out of options. Infinite creators we are. We will never, we can never run out of options. That is so important for us to understand. So the times when we feel stuck, it's because we're not connecting to
Yeah.
that, which is that infinite part, that has infinite wisdom. So, coming to understand self, we will begin to trust as we begin to understand that actually, I got that right. Actually, I was guided okay. Actually, this happened. And my book, Daily Soul Bites, talks about that. The perspectives that we choose to hold really will help us to trust our own self. It's about choice. We will not develop trust from looking outside or comparing ourselves to others. We will only develop that trust and understanding of self when we are curious about self, when we engage in modalities that take us through different stages. A time comes when we understand the mind enough, we
Mm.
begin to the heart. A time comes when we understand the heart enough to begin to connect to consciousness. And the body, we begin to understand the body as an intelligence of itself. All of this takes time, and we all, over time, over that journey, begin to understand different parts of us as we choose. Because some of us only want to concentrate on the mind, want to be academic, and that's okay. Some of us are only focused on energy, and this is not even about the physical aspect of life. We're really on that spiritual journey, and we're wanting to understand energy or how we are energy beings. But I think the the bottom line is really about being curious about consciousness, and that allows us to develop an understanding of self. We will draw in whatever we need to draw in. Because I am speaking now, but I'm not speaking arbitrarily. I'm actually connecting to different energy levels from different dimensions to actually, create an understanding at different levels. So it's always about being open to whatever wisdom is needed at that point in time. And
So,
we can come to trust that as we test it out. We're curious and it's like a scientific journey. We're testing it out. We tried this option yesterday and this is what it gave me. And I'm trying this option today. And it's like, it becomes like an adventure. And
yeah,
we can come to understand ourselves.
true. But as you mentioned earlier, it is a journey. And for some of us, there is this uncertainty. So, how does embracing uncertainty allow us to access a state of flow and alignment with universal timing?
Thank you. That's a really great, you've got really great questions. Yes. It's really, this uncertainty is the unknown. And how do we embrace the unknown when the times we've embraced the unknown in the past, sometimes we've embraced the unknown in the past, we did not get the outcomes that we want. But there are times when we embrace the unknown and we actually embrace the unknown. We embrace uncertainty more times than we realize. When we start school in the nursery, primary, we're going to a new school, we're starting a new job, we're meeting new people. We somehow have been conditioned to have a fear of uncertainty, to have a fear of the unknown. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay. It's okay to not know. We can actually come to trust that just because I don't know something doesn't mean I need to be afraid of it. We can actually come to realize that we have crossed that threshold of uncertainty, of the unknown, many, many, many times, and we did it okay. We
Yeah.
did it okay. So we can come to hold higher perspectives about the unknown. The unknown can be something new, can be something that allows me to express myself and perceive myself in a different way, in a way that I would prefer. And we all have those kinds of passions. We all have, you know, evolution is very endemic within us. The need to survive, the need to grow. It's not something that we have to learn to do. We have an innate passion, an innate desire to grow. And we will grow through many unknown things. The things that there are many things I don't know now. There are many things that I'm learning all the time. For instance, post-materialistic science is something I'm learning about. And I'm learning more about how consciousness, the big C, is really connected to that small c. And this is something that started with Albert Einstein in 1927 when he talked about quantum theory
Yes.
and, the entanglement theory and all of that stuff, no matter how, spooky things happen at a distance and all of that stuff. But this is, the unknown is something that is part of our day to day. And we can come to just allow ourselves to feel at ease with it. And it takes practice. It takes understanding the thoughts that are causing the actual fear. Whatever emotion we're having, there are thoughts behind it.
So, can
And
we
understanding
maintain inner peace while navigating through the unknown?
inner peace comes from our connection with the higher self. The physical ego self does not have any inner peace within it. it doesn't it do, it doesn't understand inner peace. It doesn't understand joy.
Yeah.
So we will find ourselves in that place of chaos, in that place of trigger, if we stay within the grip of the physical ego self. Inner peace, joy, happiness, those things come when we allow ourselves to really come to understand how the higher self is driving us, how what part of us is spirit. And it's all within us. We don't have to go anywhere. We can take a breath, we can write out whatever is bothering us, because sometimes we have to let some of these steam, the steam of the music, that those thoughts. When we journal it out, sometimes we get to that place of peace, we get to that place of calm. But we can also get to that place of calm with a breath, because just breathing alone allows us to tap into life force. Because breath is not just oxygen, there's life force within that rides on the oxygen that allows us to connect to spirit. So, and I've come to understand that oxygen, the air we breathe,
Yeah.
is actually one of the first things that we need in our human existence, much more than sleep or water or food. Air is powerful, and it's the life force that's in there that allows us to really connect to universal, that big C, that consciousness, universal energy. And that consciousness then begins to drive those personality constructs and allow those constructs. If we are willing, there is a free will there. The higher self is always there. But if we are still under the grip of that physical ego self, if we, as the lower C, are still allowing the physical ego self to drive our day to day, we will not acknowledge, we will not even be at the vibration that will allow us to surrender to the higher self. I'll give you an example. I had a friend who sent me a Muji video some years back. And Muji Baba is someone that I've trained with. He's one of my teachers. So I saw this video and I said, why haven't you been sending me this video? It's a very wonderful video. Because I've been sending this to you for years. And I go, what? Been sending me these videos for years? And I went through my WhatsApp and she had been sending these videos, but I did not see them. I did not connect with them. So there are things happening around us. There's joy around us already, but we are not connected to it because we're not vibrating at the frequency that will allow us to see it. We can only attract what we are vibrating at the same frequency as. This is the law of attraction. So we have to come to a place where we are willingly, seriously doing the spiritual practice every single day,
Mhm.
because we're being conditioned every single day. Spiritual practice to let go of the grip of the ego, to transform it using different modalities, has to be a daily practice where we're stacking our energies and learning to vibrate at a higher frequency. So these are the kinds of things that when we come to understand, if we choose, when we come to understand these things, we have a zero tolerance to engaging in anything that is going to lower our frequency. We have a zero tolerance to it. So something happens, somebody is late, and we choose. We choose to be in love. We choose to stay neutral. And if we do choose to engage, we engage in a way that serves the better outcome. It's about letting the other person know how we feel or what outcomes we feel we have lost or what outcomes we want to do differently moving forward. We will address it not in a judgmental way. We will address it in a way that allows both of us to grow. And we will continue to do that. So it's a very conscious attraction, very conscious awareness that we can come to have. So, yes, it's about frequency. The
Yeah.
frequency we are vibrating at allows us to align to the higher perspectives, allow us to align to the bigger consciousness, the big C, as
Yes.
opposed to staying in the grip of the ego.
So, Bola, a lot of us, I know you found your joy, you found your happiness, and some of us have not. Can you tell us or describe a way that people can find their happiness and joy?
Hmm, that's a great question. This is something that, I've mentioned some of it, really about conscious alignment. It's that self awareness, acknowledging that you have not found your joy. Just saying that, I'm not happy, or I'm sad, or I'm going through this. There are different parts of us that need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to feel safe. They need to feel secure. Surrender does not happen until all of that is in place. So we have to be able to recognize and acknowledge and accept those feelings within us. And then we don't have to stay there. There's one thing for us to acknowledge and accept that we are sad, but it's another thing for us to now take steps. And by steps, I mean daily actions, whatever modalities. We all have to have our own individual toolkits, whether it's subliminals. The subliminal affirmations are really powerful. They go straight into the subconscious, without the conscious mind interfering with the affirmations that are being said. That's a very powerful. I use that. I actually have a sample of that on my website.
I've seen
There
it.
is conditional loving subliminal affirmation on my website that it's just free for anyone. And I also do produce my own subliminal affirmations with a team that I also is available for sale on my website. It's actually about using whatever modalities are working for us. Once we identify, once we accept without judgment. When we stop criticizing ourselves, there's a big shift in our frequency. And what we attract are higher outcomes. They're better outcomes. Better in the sense that what we want compared to what we don't want. We are aware of those things. And so it's what is better for one person may not be better for another. So
Sure.
it's really an individual thing. So yes, it's about awareness of that state of being that we have, and then being mindful of what we align to. And integration is really using a lot of different modalities that allow us to hold space, compassion, learning from teachers that inspire us. Inspiration is a big modality. It allows us to do things differently. It's like you're trying to change your diet, trying to make sure that you eat differently. And taste buds, there's nothing that's more difficult to train than our taste buds, that are used to sugar and caffeine. How do you train this taste bud? And sometimes you just need inspiration from somebody who's done it. Or how did I change my taste buds? I had a friend who could not eat salt and sugar stay with me for a week. That happened not through any kind of manipulation on my. She just called me and said she wants to come over, and she spent a week with me. I was cooking for her, and cooking foods that had no salt, no sugar. Actually, showing her that love made me show myself that. And that was synchronicity. The universe gave me that as a gift. So I've been doing this for over 5 years, trying to not eat salt and sugar, by the way, just to let you know. That wasn't overnight. So, and it probably goes way back because I was a size 22 about 20 years ago. So I was, so this is an interesting journey that,
Yeah.
to get to a place where I'm really now able to do this with such ease
Yes.
because it happened with ease and joy. And now it's not a problem for me. Now I actually show myself that love with so much.
Subliminals as well. Did you use
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yes, I have a toolkit, a very, very big toolkit. And it's changing all the time. The toolkits that worked, 2 years ago are not the same toolkits that will work this year, So, and some are the same. So it's always about being honest with ourselves and being transparent with ourselves to know that what I used before is not working now, and it's not the end. There are infinite number of modalities that we can come in each timeline. There are limitless options, and I'm discovering new modalities all the time. It's never ending. So yes, it's about compassion, understanding that I'm not feeling the way I want to feel, and beginning to open ourselves with curiosity to do more of those things that we believe will support us. Because it's got to be something we believe in. This is because it's our beliefs that really creating the reality. Subconscious and conscious belief are what creates that reflection in front of me. So yeah, joy is not elusive, and I talk about joy in my book. And love. These are things that are available to us based on the beliefs we hold and based on what we align.
Yeah. Bola, thank you very much for coming to my show. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Jackie. It's been a wonderful experience, and I really want to congratulate you for all the work you're doing because you're doing this in a very short space of time. You're making phenomenal impact on the collective consciousness. So well done. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for saying that. Thank you, Bola, for sharing your perspective on spiritual growth and healing. Your insights remind us of the importance of self-awareness. And to everyone listening, please remember, true wisdom is found when we listen deeply to ourselves. Keep following your inner voice on this journey. I'm Jackie Denise. Thanks for listening.